Welcome back, Geordies. Tonight I'm going to give you my match reaction after 24 hours on the poor performance at the Velodrome last night and losing 2-1. And most of all, I kind of want to touch on a few things. I see a lot of people giving it the, Eddie Howe's, he's making the wrong decisions and the players aren't putting in enough effort and, the same old stuff being recycled. And I get it. I 100% get it. I look at these decisions that are being made, and again, I sit there as frustrated as everybody else that we still see Nick Pope in goal after calling for Aaron Ramsdale. But there's a few topics. I mean, we'll get on to Nick Pope and what happened yesterday in a minute. But there's a few things that are really sprung to my attention in the past couple of weeks that I really can't shy away from and feel that it needs to be said. And mainly the focus around our squad, building a squad, looking to the future and how we're looking to progress or how we're looking to build something for the next 4, 5, 6 years. And the way we've acted in the transfer window. Now, I know we didn't have the greatest success this summer with regards to our front line and, we got Nick Voltmada in the end, but obviously he wasn't the first choice and so on and so forth. But the key standout things for me is after watching the Man City game, where we were so good, and we saw Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento and Malik Chow was fantastic. And we had one old head in that back line, Fabs, who I thought was brilliant on the day. He was absolutely fantastic. I feel like this defence is going to crumble. And it's going to crumble because we've got Fabian Schär, who's reaching the end of his career. We've got Dan Burn reaching the end of his career. We've got Emil Kraft, who's not up to the cut. And again, he's in the latter stages of his career. We've got Kieran Trippier, who's got months left to run on his contract. And again, he's at an age where he's coming to the end. And I don't feel like we're actually giving the younger players the opportunity or moulding ourselves for the future. This is my issue with Eddie picking the same players that he's picking every week. And I thought Dan Burn yesterday, he looked like a donkey. He was late in tackles, missed timing, out of position, leaving balls to run when he should be attacking them. The young guys don't do that. Tino Livramento, Lewis Hall, Malik Chow, they don't do that. They've got the legs, they're spatially aware, they're switched on, and I hate the saying, leave the game before the game leaves you. This is what's happening to our defence. And I feel like there isn't a scenario where Dan Burn should be starting over Sven Botman at the moment. Even out of form, I'd rather play through with the younger guys because these are the guys that are going to take the mantle. These are the guys that should be getting the match experience in these competitions because they're the future. They're the guys that are going to play in the next 3, 4, 5 years when Fabs, Burn, Pope, Trippier all retire. So there needs to be some level of youth coming through in this team and getting given the opportunities. And I'll go for the same thing. If we were to look at the money we spent in the summer and we go back 2 years and we sold Minter and Anderson. Now, both Minter and Anderson have left this club and look better since they've left than they did when they were here. But why do they look better? Because of the game time they've been given and the development they've had at the clubs they're at. Now, I don't disbelieve that Elliot Anderson could have been that player for Newcastle. And I wish we had the money to buy him back now. I wish he still played for us. And I wish we played him in the role he plays for Nottingham Forest. But we don't. Yakuba Minter, I wish we had Yakuba Minter at right wing rather than Anthony Elanga. But we don't. The key thing for me is looking across the team at how much money we've spent in this summer window and the standouts being Elanga and Jacob Ramsey and probably even Aaron Ramsdale. He's in on a loan, but I would want us to sign him for the 20-25 million, whatever the buyout clause is at the end. We've spent the best part of 100 million quid in this summer window on players to improve our bench. Now, at £55 million for a right winger, Anthony Elanga should be starting every week. He should have the ability or the capability to start ahead of Jacob Murphy every week. And he doesn't. And Jacob Ramsey in the centre of midfield. Jacob Ramsey can't get in ahead of Joe Willock. Now, I thought Willock had one of the better performances last night, but Jacob Ramsey, a £40 million signing for our centre midfield, can't get in ahead of Joe Willock, who's been missing for 2 years. It's something is wrong behind the scenes. Or again, I know we've had problems with the sporting director, but there's got to be somebody there. You've got scouts, you've got people higher up, you've got Eddie, you've got Jason Tyndall. They have to be able to make the right decisions for pulling in signings. And I'll be honest with you, I think if you put it to a poll to the fans, for 55 million quid, we could probably pick a better, more progressive right winger who would work in the Newcastle setup. And it shouldn't be that difficult. These are professionals working in their remit. These scouts should be able to tell that there are better deals on the market than Anthony Elanga and Jacob Ramsey. And most of all, like I look at our midfield now, and 2 years ago, Lewis Miley came into this midfield and he looked like such a hot prospect. There were games that he played in and I thought, this kid is unreal. He's got the talent to push on to the next level. He can be what Eddie says it. He could be whatever he wants to be if he puts in the work. But it's no good putting in the work if you don't get the game time. And the game time you do get, if that means that you're playing right back instead of centre midfield, we've got a problem. And there were plenty of moments in that game last night where I saw Dan Burn being the overlapping left winger, or there to overlap as the left fullback to go forward. He was sat in front of Tino, and Tino Livramento sitting back and holding as a 3. In what world is Dan Burn offering us more going forward than Tino Livramento? Malik Chow playing at right back. Now, I wouldn't mind if you had Sven Botman in the middle and you were going to use them as a 3 and Murphy's going to push up and Tino Livramento is going to push up. But that's not what happened. And the all too familiar circumstance of going 1-0 up and the first 5 minutes of the second half seeing us capitulate, not switch on and crumble to a team. Realistically, Marseille have got a lot of Champions League experience. They haven't beaten a Premier League team in 15 years. 15 years since they last beat a Premier League team. And that team is not fantastic. Before last night, they'd won 1 game in the Champions League this year. So we should be able to go there and impose ourselves. And I do get the Velodrome has an atmosphere like St James's. When they're up, they're up. And it's a very tough place to go. But we quelled that in the first half. We got the goal. We went ahead. And although we didn't look good for it, we did create chances. There was points where I looked at it and I thought it was good that Eddie had changed the team sheet. Players need a rest. Bring other people in. But if come the weekend when we go to Everton, we see Nick Pope back in goal, Dan Burn back in that centre-back partnership, and Anthony Elanga and Aaron Ramsey, Lewis Miley, all back on the bench, what's the point? Because no matter how well we do this year, next year when we need to replenish those players, all of these guys aren't going to have the game time. And players like Lewis Miley, are going to look at the moves that Elliot Anderson and Yakuba Minter got and think, that's a better move for my career. As much as I love the club, my boyhood club, the club I want to play for, if I'm not going to get the game time, why wouldn't I want the move? Elliot Anderson is now, I'd say, an England staple in that centre midfield. I think he's got that DM spot nailed. But he could have been that DM for us. And the thing we struggle with most at the moment is a DM. So in those moments, I feel like there were other players that we should have looked to move on and didn't while they were at the peak of their prime or doing well in the league. I look at Anthony Gordon now. He's a shadow of the player we signed. An absolute shadow. The guy's touch is poor. His effort is poor. His finishing's poor. He's not a number 9, I get it. But he's been crap on the left as well as crap up front. But yeah, I see him play for England. Every effort. Plays well. Gets into the right spaces. Delivers well. Does none of that for Newcastle. His delivery's been absolutely shit for Newcastle. But his delivery's been fantastic for England. And the only thing that I can think, and I don't know, this is coming from nowhere, but my personal opinion, is he is trying to get himself a move. I genuinely believe Anthony Gordon wants a move away from Newcastle. Ideally, he would have liked the move to Liverpool, just like Isak did. But he didn't conduct himself in that manner. And I'm grateful for it. But I think ever since that period where Liverpool made it clear that they were interested and his head was turned, he's never been the same player for us. And the only times he's actually performed is when he's on the European stage in the Champions League, where he's highlighting his talent to the rest of the world. And I think there needs to be a point where we look at the players who actually perform every week and say, if you give me a 7 out of 10, you're better off being in the team than the guy that gives me 9 out of 10 for one game and then 4 out of 10 for the next 3. And coming down to that second half, that first 10 minutes, we've seen it all too many times this season. We saw it with West Ham. We've seen it in other games and we saw it again last night. It may be Nick Pope that made the mistake. And he may be the guy that's at fault this week. But there has been plenty of players that have made individual errors that have cost us. And those individual errors are costing us points. It's not a goal. It costs us morale. It costs us progression of keeping a winning run going. And I don't care about the Champions League game last night. I'm not really that bothered. Like, honestly, I think we've done well. 3 wins, 2 losses. We're in a fairly decent position. We may have to play a few extra games, but I think we still have the opportunity to qualify. But realistically, come the weekend when we play Everton, if we get another shit performance like that, where do we go from here? What do we do in the January window? Do we go out and blow a load more money to make up for the signings that we shouldn't have bought this summer? But let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you think these signings are worth it. Let me know if you think we should just change this up completely and say Ramsdale in goal, play the young guys. What will be for this season. But next season, it will make a difference. Once these guys are blooded and they get the game time, like Elliot Anderson, like Yakuba Minter, and we keep players that actually will be progressive for our future. Either way, if you've liked the content, guys, give me a thumbs up. We can only hope that the weekend gets better. And hopefully, guys, I'll see you in the next one.